Good morning, everybody. There's a lot going on out there right now, so let's get to it. Now, I just finished a series, Why Iran. I got to admit, I was shocked at how popular this thing was. And I say there's a lot going on out there. There is, but it's also summer trading on Wall Street, and you can kind of tell where we are. We're just kind of floating along like we often do during the summer. So we get a chance to go into depth on a couple of things. What I want to go into depth on right now is another series, probably 3, 4 weeks. Why gold? And the reason I'm bringing this up, and you all know that you all have gold positions, what's going on out there and what are we hearing? So I'm going to make the case that it is in government's best interest, not just our government, but European governments and Asian governments to revalue gold considerably higher to help their debt situation. So many of you are going to think this is crazy town, Greg, what you're talking about, because I'm talking about revaluing gold to levels that you may think unthinkable. 20,000 an ounce, $30,000 an ounce, $40,000 an ounce. And before you go, wait, I'm shutting this thing off. Bear with me. This first part, if you understand this, you will understand more than probably, I don't know, one out of every 100,000 people out there understands that the paradox of gold. And here's the paradox. Gold is essentially useless. It doesn't move a truck or a train. You can't eat it. It doesn't earn interest. You can't communicate with it. Gold's used this much in industry. Oh, trace amounts in technology. Gold, in the words of Warren Buffett, that really rich dude, he says gold is a pet rock. Now, for those of you under the age of 50, a pet rock was a fad way back where they sold rocks in a box and you could teach it how to roll over. Yeah, never mind. You get the idea. It's useless. Here's the paradox. Because gold is useless, it's extremely valuable. And if you're giving one of those quizzical looks out there right now, like, what is he talking about? How can something with no utility be of value? Gold, because it has no utility, can be used to erase debts. And governments have understood this for hundreds and hundreds, actually thousands of years. So let me explain how it works. And I could give you examples out of China or Russia or Britain or France. We'll use the American example. I'm going to take you back to 1934. A lot of you think that was forever ago, but 90 some years is an ancient history. Franklin Roosevelt had a problem. The Depression was deepening. And as the Depression deepened, his income tax revenues were going like this, and his debts were soaring, and he needed to do something. Well, he didn't want to raise taxes. Don't blame him, especially during a depression, but he had gold. So what did he do? In January of 1934, he wrote an executive order. It doesn't even go to Congress. He says, I am changing the price of gold from $20 an ounce, which is about the going price back then. I'm changing the price of gold to $35 an ounce. People said, can you do that? Yeah, you can value your gold at whatever you want to value it at, and I'll explain why. So what did this do for him? I want you to picture scales, the old-fashioned kind, like Lady Liberty or Lady Justice. All right, you've got on one plate, you've got gold. On the other plate, you've got debt. Well, when he took his gold on hand from 20 bucks an ounce to 35, it's as if he made his gold on hand heavier. That made his debt lighter. With a stroke of a pen, he erased just under 70% of the government's debt. And that's the key word, government's debt. This move helped no farmer out there, no homeowner, no business owner with debt, because the previous year, 1933, he basically made gold illegal for the public to own. So government had the gold, he changed the price, and with a stroke of a pen, he erases a whole bunch of government debt. And so I gave this speech or this talk to a group of retired bankers several months ago. And I had gotten to this point in the talk, and this guy on the left side of the room, he just threw his head back and he laughed and he said out loud, oh my gosh, It's just a balance sheet issue. And I said, right. And it took like 3 seconds. And every other banker in the world, it's like the light bulb went off over their heads. Oh my gosh, it's just a balance sheet issue. And so, why is it we can do this with gold and nothing else? Here's why, because gold is useless. Let's pretend it's 1934 again. What if Roosevelt had said, I'm changing the price of oil from 20 bucks a barrel to 35? What would have happened? Almost immediately, gas at the pumps would have doubled. Fertilizer prices would have soared. Transportation prices would have soared. The people would have said, are you out of your mind, Mr. President? It's at breadline soup kitchens. And you just did this to us? Off with your head. What if you changed the price of copper? Copper's pretty useful. If you double the price of copper, it ripples through the economy and people feel it. Aluminum, coal, natural gas, anything with a use ripples. When Roosevelt changed the price of gold, did it change the price of apples? No, why would it? Gold's not used in the apple process. Didn't change the price of farmland, didn't change the price of chickens, didn't change the price of gasoline. He changed the price of wedding bands. Whoop-dee-doo. Pretty small price to pay to erase a whole bunch of your government debt so he could then spend it and do the New Deal programs. Now, later, the inflation comes. We'll get to that in the next. There's no free lunch in this deal. The people end up paying are basically us. But you get the idea. Because gold has no utility, it doesn't ripple. And so for governments to just arbitrarily change a price from here to here and have the ability to erase this much debt if they want to, now you start to see why it is in government's best interest to change the price of gold. So next week, I'm going to make the case that this is what they're setting up for, and you can tell by gold flows. And we'll talk about how there is still no free lunch, but it's not government that pays the price, it's us. And so with that, oh, let me add one more thing to the banker thing. After, this is really actually kind of funny. Once the light bulbs went off over their heads, they all started talking amongst themselves. And it was as if I wasn't even there in the room anymore. And so it was like, well, I guess I'm done. And this is no joke. I walked out of the room. I didn't even get the applause you'd hope you'd get. And I was kind of feeling sorry for myself walking out as they're all talking in the background. But I must admit, I felt a little bit like the Batman. My work is done here. They have understanding. And that's what I hope you have today. And with that, I'll turn it over to Walt.